DreAllDay.com.
Dre Philosophy Volume 0. Dre Baldwin's full philosophy on the mental game and life at DreAllDay.com. Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. The topic of this video is that the game is not over until you win. This topic is about persistence. It's about a mentality. The mentality of that you're going to be mentally tough enough and disciplined enough and persistent enough to keep going after what you want when you know what it is you want. First, you got to know what it is. To keep going after what you want despite the setbacks, despite the failures, despite coming up short, despite maybe somebody trying to plant those seeds of doubt in your mind like I talked about in the previous video. How do you keep going until you get the outcome that you actually want? Let's get right into it. Point number one is that you cannot put a time limit on your most desired successes. Now, there can be a time limit on some things you want to do. There can be a time limit on a lot of things you do. Whatever your definite chief aim, as Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, your definite chief aim in life, the one thing that if you achieve that will make all of your life a success. I'm not talking about the little things, the one big thing that will make everything worth it, that will make your life, your time on this planet have been worth something to everybody else and to yourself. There is no time limit on that. You can't put a, what do we want to call it, a stopwatch on that and say, okay, well, if I don't achieve this by the time I'm 30, I'm not going to do it. Or if I don't do this in the next week, I'm just going to give up on it. Or if I don't achieve this by the time I get married or by the time I have my first kid, I'm just going to quit on it. If it's really your definite chief aim in life, you're going to keep going for it until you get it. Otherwise, what else are you living for? What other outcome are you excited about if it's not going to be that one? So you don't put a time limit on the things that are most important to you. The number one thing that is most important to you. No time limit on that. Point number two. Tim Grover in his book Relentless, which is a great book on, especially for athletes. It's not specifically written for, actually it is. This is an athletic book. So those of you who are athletes, especially basketball players, I recommend you read that book. It's a great book about mental toughness and leadership, personal leadership. And Tim Grover said in his book, what other people call failure is their way of saying how they will feel about themselves. And that's something that I've said before. I'm not sure he said that in as many words, but he alluded to it in his book. When people tell you that what you did, you failed, that's not them, that's not their prescription. That doesn't mean that you actually failed. It doesn't mean you had to accept it. What it means is they're telling you, if I went through that situation, if that happened to me, if I was where you are right now, I would feel like a failure. But that does not mean you have to accept their judgment. Doesn't mean you have to accept the way that they look at themselves, the way that you look at yourself. It's like I talked about in the fear addiction video. You allow people to plant those seeds of fear, indecision, of failure in your mind that came out of their heads, then you're going to become just like them. So unless you want to be that person, whoever that is telling you that, you got to learn what to accept and what to reject from other people when they're telling you how they feel about your situation. And in the end, it doesn't really matter how they feel because not their situation, it's your situation. Even if it's a shared situation, they got the same situation as you, y'all on the same team and the same family, doesn't mean you got to accept their opinion, doesn't mean you have to accept their perspective. You got to choose your own. If you have a definite chief aim in your life that ain't the same as theirs, you better be choosing your own because you don't want to end up where they're at because y'all have two different aims that you're going after. That just makes sense, right? Point number three. 50 Cent said in one of his songs, I remember he said, I just keep going no matter what it costs me. Whatever it is that he wanted to achieve, he's basically saying in that song, I'm going to keep going. I don't care what it costs me in time, in money, in energy, in effort, attention, focus. I'm going to keep going after it until I achieve what I want. And I don't know what specifically he could be referring to, but what I'm telling you is, as I told you at the beginning of this vid, the things that you are most serious about, your most definite chief aims in life, you keep going and invest whatever you got to invest in to get those, because what else are you going to invest in? What else would you rather put your time in besides the thing that you really, really want to do in life? If you're going to put your time into anything else other than that, I mean, is it really a definite chief aim of yours? When you have a real aim, you'll put every resource you have into achieving that aim because that's the thing that will make your whole life worth it for you, according to you, not according to the public, not according to the commentators or your Facebook friends, how you feel about you. Find something. If you don't have anything, you don't have that definite chief aim right now. Maybe you don't. You know, I get messages from people every day who aren't quite sure what that thing is. And maybe they think they know what it is, but it turns out that's not really what it is. Maybe they're just going off of what's popular or what their friends think or what somebody told them should be their aim. You're going to need to figure out what that is. If you need some help with that, I suggest you read my book, The Mental Workbook. Also read the Mental Handbook. Also, I'll recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read that book, that's a foundational book when it comes to personal development. And then you read mine. Those are the modern, new age version of personal development. They'll be foundational 100 years from now. just like Napoleon Hill's is. Figure out what that definite chief aim is. What is the one thing that I want to achieve in my life, or do in my life, or become in my life, that will make everything that I've been through, everything that I've done, all my time here, worth it? Whether that's 10 years, 20 years, or 100 years that you live on this planet, what would make it actually worth it? You got to know what is the thing you would trade everything in order to achieve. If you don't know what that is, take some time out of your day, your free time, the time you spend watching YouTube videos, reading social media, hanging with friends, watching basketball highlights on TV. Take that time and use it to figure out what your definite chief aim is. Figure out what your purpose is. Figure out what you're here for. That is where all the power is at. So if you're feeling powerless, you're feeling listless, you don't feel like you really have that energy, that spark for yourself, it's because you probably don't know what you're going after. You don't know why you're doing all this stuff. You're giving out all this energy. You're taking this time. You're showing up at work every day, but you don't really know why. Somebody asks you, why are you doing all this? You couldn't even answer. Figure out what your purpose is. Figure out what your definite chief aim is. It may take some time. It's not something that you're going to figure out in the 6 minutes it takes to watch a YouTube video, but you will figure it out if you dedicate some time to thinking about it. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.